Well, hello there, tankers of the Blitz universe. I'm Flossie, and today I will be doing a comparison video between the T95E6 and the Strv K. Both of these tanks play very similar to each other, and I consider them both heaviums, which means they play in between heavy tank playstyle and medium tank playstyle, which I will get more into a little bit later. But first, we will take a look at the tank's stats, both of them, kind of comparing them to each other, and the armor profiles, and then I will play one live game in each of these tanks. I will leave timestamps down below so you guys can skip around the video if you do so choose. And with that, let's get into these tanks' statistics here. So, moving over to Bullet Stars here, you can see both of the tanks are equipped the exact same. I am using calibrated shells on both of these tanks. Personally, for me, that's because I like to get the most amount of pen I can out of a tank, even though the Strv K has APCR premium. I still find that little bit of extra pen can sometimes help, so that's just my personal opinion. You guys probably will have a different opinion to that, but that is an opinion at the end of the day, so that is that. Anyways, you can see here, in terms of the firepower, both of these tanks have similar DPM. The Strv K has slightly better DPM, and when I say slightly, it's literally 11 more. Like, bruh. Doesn't really matter there, and that's on the standard ammo, of course. You can see with the standard ammo, the penetration on these tanks is also pretty much the same, and the alpha damage is, well, it's 50 less on the Strv K, so that's one of the things that's different on them, is the alpha damage. I find the E6, I prefer having higher alpha, especially 400. I think that's a pretty good, like, sweet spot for a heavium tank, because it's higher than most mediums, but you're still going to get that DPM of not having crazy high alpha where your reload is super long. So personally for me, I like the 400 alpha of the E6 more, but yeah, not a crazy difference, but you will notice you'll get higher rolls, obviously, in the E6. Now, looking at the premium shells, you can see here the pen is a lot less on the Strv K, but that's because it has APCR. So overall, with APCR, it means you'll be able to go through people's tracks, whereas with heat, you can't. But personally, for me, I like having heat as my premium rounds because it just makes it so much easier to butter through people's turrets, especially having 363 millimeters of heat pen. It's very nice, and you can see, of course, because the E6 has higher alpha overall, it has 40 more premium alpha, which is also quite nice. Now, taking a look at the HE, you can see, again, the E6 has higher alpha, and it also has slightly better pen. Now, that's not really a noticeable difference in terms of pen, so both of these tanks, if you do see the rear of, like, Leopards or TVPs, or, yeah, you're going to be able to spam HE at them, and it's quite nice dealing 515 damage or 440 damage in these tanks with HE, because your DPM is a lot higher, obviously. So, that's about it for the guns. You can see here, in terms of the gun handling, both of these tanks have decent aim time. However, the STRV has better aim time overall. And I find the STRV's gun is just more accurate in general. For whatever reason, the E6's gun can just be kind of troll. The dispersion of both of these tanks are very nice. You can see the E6's dispersion is slightly worse. Now, it's not that bad, actually, and for whatever reason, this gun seems to be more troll than what its stats actually are on paper. I don't know why that is, because the dispersion of 0.326 is not actually terrible, but overall, the STRV K is way more accurate from my experience. One thing you will see here is the Strv K has 1 degree less of gun depression. Now, overall, that's not really going to make much of a difference. However, on certain maps, it actually will. If you are on dead rail, you're going to find that having an extra degree of gun depression can actually help you. And yeah. However, for the majority of situations, you won't really notice it, and it's not a deal breaker, but 10 degrees of gun depression is really, really nice indeed. Now, taking a look at the tank's mobility, you can see here they both have very similar mobility stats. Now, the Strv K used to have super speed boost, so it was actually faster than the E6 while using that, but Wargaming did remove that, so now it is just slower overall. Not by much, but it is noticeable, especially because the power to weight on the E6 is better, and the effective horsepower is better too. So you're basically going to get up to your top speed faster in the E6. But in terms of reverse speed, both of these tanks do go basically the same in reverse. You can see the STRV-K goes 1 faster in reverse. Like, bro, that doesn't really matter. And at least you're not going like 12 reverse speed in these tanks. So both of them, in terms of mobility, are quite nice. And that's why I like playing these tanks on medium side, but I'll get into their playstyle a little bit later. Now, let's take a look at their armor profiles here, and I will start off with the STRV-K. So you can see here, while using calibrated shells on an IS-4, you're going to be buttering right through this tank on flat ground, no problem at all. You can see the upper plate is only about 217 thick, 222. It's pretty bad, and the lower plate is even worse, 137. Like, some hesh penning tanks can just literally hesh your lower plate with ease. You can see the turret's not very strong either, only about 191 on the top of it and 125 on the sides. And it does have a little bit of a hatch up there too. So yeah, overall armor profile on flat ground against AP is not really that great. However, of course, using your 9 degrees of gun depression, you can get that to be a little bit more effective. The upper plate becomes quite a bit stronger. However, it's still... it really depends. Like you'll see here, it's 440 now while you're using gun depression against heat. But yeah, your turret's still a weak spot there. And I find that both of these tanks aren't really relying on their armor to do well in game. And you shouldn't be relying on their armor in game because that's not how you're supposed to play these tanks. Again, that's why I call them HEAVIUMS, because they do have the armor of a medium tank with the HP and firepower of a heavy. So it's kind of in between. And it really makes these tanks interesting and fun to play. Now, you can see here the side armor is quite tragic. 80 millimeters means you're going to get HE'd in the side by a lot of different tanks, and 50 on the rear means basically everyone at tier 10 and tier 9 can HE you in the rear. So don't show your rear if you can. So yeah, overall, you can play these things sort of hull down, but you're not really going to rely on the armor. You can see here, when I do move over to the T110, or not T110, the T95E6, sorry, the armor profile is basically the same. You have the cheek weak spots here as well as the upper plate that you can pen. The lower plate is also super weak, and you do have a giant hatch, which kind of acts as the roof of the Strv K, but in a different format here. So you can see basically the same armor profile on both of these tanks. However, the side armor is actually slightly weaker on the E6, and its sides are easier to hit with HE because they are taller. And you can see here, the rear is a lot weaker on the E6. Literally anything can HE you. It's ridiculous how much you get spammed with HE in this tank. Now, in terms of hull down, I would actually say the E6 is probably stronger than the STRV-K, even with the hatch. Sometimes the hatch can be troll to shoot at, and it's pretty good in terms of like baiting shells. If you're driving back and forth, people will sometimes just miss your hatch if you do it correctly. So overall, I mean, the E6 and the STRV-K both have basically the same armor profile. They're pretty mid, and I wouldn't really rely on them. But in terms of hull down gameplay, I would say the E6 is stronger. Now, in terms of playing a game in each of these tanks, how do they play? I'm going to start off with the STRV-K. Not that it really matters, but that is just what I picked first. So both of these tanks, again, they play similar to medium tanks with more HP. That's kind of how I like to play them. And you know what? Before I do get into their gameplay style, I just want to mention both of these tanks do have a special mechanic that's also available on the VZ55, which is combat stabilization, meaning that both of these tanks, when you're driving under 15 kilometers an hour, you can see the bar at the bottom of your aiming area there. It will go green, and that basically means that your reticle will not bloom when you're driving under 15 kilometers an hour. So that just basically helps your accuracy overall. But you can see when it's orange, you're going to be quite inaccurate because, of course, you're driving above 15 kilometers an hour. So yeah, that's kind of the special mechanic that both of these tanks carry, and it's actually quite nice. I will also note that the STRV-K has sandbag armor, whereas the E6 does not. So you will be able to get a little bit more HP if you do use double sandbag on this tank, but overall, both of the tanks have similar HP. Anyways, the gameplay style. So you can play this thing like a heavy with no armor, or a medium with lots of armor. That's kind of how these tanks play, and personally, I float around between playing it like a heavy and playing it like a medium. It really depends on the matchup here. So seeing as we have a K91 in front of us, I am going to try and get a shell into him. Unfortunately, that one does not pen, but yeah. It also seems like our Yag is just kind of leaving. It looks like the only thing is I would push on this guy, but I don't really know where the rest of their team is. And wow, we actually do get a lucky bounce from that 183 for 950. Wow, I'm very shocked that we actually bounced that. Very good indeed, though. You can see here we do get a bounce from the K91, and I'm going to try and use this hull down as much as I can. Not that the armor is all that reliable, but against a K91, it shouldn't be too bad, and we are able to use the nice accuracy to get a free shell into the K91. Now, I don't know why our T30 did that, but, you know, not much I can say about that. I'm just going to keep holding here, and we'll see what we can do. Now, the Yag is probably going to full send this corner in just a second here, so I'm just going to wait for him to do that. That's what I'm assuming is going to happen, but you never know. You can also see the 183 is also over here, and he does, in fact, shoot. So I'm going to use that opportunity to get a free shell into the K91. He does pen us back, but it's okay. We rolled him for a lot higher than he does. So it's a W trade so far, and I will, in fact, try and get another shell into him. He does high roll me there for a lot, and yeah. All I'm going to try and do is get an HE shell into him. Doesn't look like I can actually pen him with HE in the turret there. Interesting stuff. So he's still alive, which is kind of annoying, but yeah, oh well. Anyways. We're gonna sort of kind of ignore him for now. Ooh, their 183 is over here though. Hold on. Hold on there, 183. You want to poke out a little bit more? Appreciate it, 183. That was a awful roll. 328. Wow. That's the thing about the STRVK is you're gonna have to expect low rolls like a lot in this tank, and it's kind of annoying because sometimes even medium tanks can outtrade you in this thing, which is a little bit sad. You know what? We are just winning this game by a landslide, so I'm going to take the shot from the Yag. He does actually shoot me with heat, which is interesting stuff. Let's get a finishing shot into that K91, and I will push off to the side here where I can start getting shells into this Yag's lower plate. He does, in fact, give me his lower plate enough so I can actually shoot him. You can see, however, the pen on this tank is not very good, so we do, in fact, we're not able to pen his superstructure, like, at all, even with calibrated shells. So, yeah. It's a little bit mid in that aspect, but that guy loses a ton of health, and we should be able to finish him off in just a second here. There we are, and all that's left is the V4. Hopefully we'll be able to get like a shell or two into him, breaking our 3k damage mark, but we'll see what happens. V4 is running, so we're going to hopefully be able to use our nice mobility to get some damage out into him before he does die. So I am going to go towards mid because I do see he is making his way there now. So there we go. V4 gets spotted in mid. We do get a nice roll into his tank. Now, a little bit of a low roll, but it doesn't really matter. And we'll get to his side and get another shell into him. Another low roll, bruh. At least we do get the shell out before he dies, and we deal just about 3,600 damage. So pretty solid game in the STRVK. And you can see I didn't exactly play like a medium that game. I sort of just held heavy side. But that's the thing in a tank like this. You can play it like either a medium or a heavy. Sometimes it's best to play it more like a heavy and kind of just hold a side of the map where you know that your team will get rushed by if you aren't doing that. So yeah, I do like this tank a lot, and I think its gameplay style is really fun. Now let's take a look at the E6. Pretty much the exact same gameplay style. It won't be a replica of last game because I'll probably get a better map for this tank in this game. But we'll see what happens, and hopefully I will be able to go medium side and showcase just what this tank can do against enemy mediums. And look at that, we do get a fantastic map to showcase that. Indeed, we get Canal. So what I'm hoping is that we have our Batchat here and our STRVK. I'm hoping those two tanks go medium side because, of course, I will be going medium side as I do see their enemy Batchat and Progetto on the enemy team. I kind of just want to get rid of them. So hopefully... Bruh. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I am going medium side by myself with the 263. Interesting. It looks like the Batchat's not even going medium side either. Maybe he's doing a weird spotting run. I don't know. But anyways, I will still make my way towards medium side because at least I do have a teammate to support me, which is all I really need. And in this tank, you are a medium bully. Both of these tanks, in fact. You can bully the crap out of mediums because you do have higher alpha damage for the most part, especially in the E6. The 400 alpha really means you can outtrade a lot of mediums. So even though you don't really have much armor, if you are fighting mediums, it doesn't really matter if you get penned back because you have more HP than them and you have more alpha. It just allows you to trade with them very effectively indeed. You can see here we do have an enemy 60 TP in mid there. I'm going to try and get a tracking shell into him. Unfortunately, it low rolls, but at least we do pen him, so I'm not going to complain too much. And we do also see the Kron is rolling off to our side. We do get another shell into him as well, so that's excellent so far. These heavies are playing like apes, and I don't know why they are doing this. But we'll see if I can get another shell into the Kron there. Oof, we break his turret as well, and we deal 390 damage to him. You can see where the alpha damage on this tank is just super nice. Even over distance, we're still rolling higher than we would in a Strv K. So yeah, so far this game is looking okay. We haven't bled any health, and we've bled out some enemy team's health, so that's very good indeed. Let's see if I can get a nice 500 max roll into the bat chat. I don't know what he's doing. He's definitely going to be dying soon. Yeah, he gets shot at by our bat chat, and he's dead. Good play, bro. Unfortunately for me, I do use my adrenaline when I probably could have saved it. So, yeah, that sucks, but it is what it is. And it looks like I can actually get a free shell into this Kron here. There we go. That was an awful roll. I don't know what's up with my rolls today, but I'm rolling really bad, like really low. Like, I don't know what's going on, but we do get hit by the 268 in the back. That's unfortunate. And I'm not going to even bother poking this E100 because he can pretty much butter right through my turret at any angle. So, yeah, I'm going to make my way over this way here. Let's see if I can get a shell into this Progetto. That one just hits the ground. Unfortunate. The E6's accuracy is kind of troll at times, so you do have to keep that in mind. Bruh. Okay. Apparently everyone wants to shoot at me right now. Interesting stuff. I don't know why the 60 was sitting there, but he was. And yes, I do get hit for another 500 damage. Let's see if this guy pokes. We do at least... Wow, we actually don't even outtrade him. Okay, again, I don't know why my gun is rolling so low. It's really unfortunate stuff, and it means that we have actually not done as much damage as we technically could have this game. But they still have a lot of HP left, so we'll see what we can do. I'm kind of hoping this E100 just turns his turret and kind of ignores me. There we go. He does shoot that guy. Still don't pen the guy, but oh well. Their 183 is not paying attention to me right now, so I am going to try and get a shell into him right there. Bro, the rolls, dude. I've low rolled like almost every single shell this game. That's so sad. Let's see if I can get a shell into the 60 here. That was a really nice shell, but look at that. Another low roll. Holy cow, game. Can I hit an average roll? That would be excellent. Let's get a shell. Another low roll into the E100. So you can see here, we are low rolling a lot of our shells, but even with that, we're still rolling higher than we would if we were in the Strv K, which is also just something I really like about this tank. I like the alpha damage. Why did I poke that? Why did I do that? That was really stupid of me. I shouldn't have poked that. Well, we kind of threw away a lot of extra damage, but I mean, it is a win at the end of the day, and yeah, I can't get too mad because that was my own fault. Do in fact win right there. So yeah, I made a mistake at the end. I bled out a lot of health, and I just kind of died to that E100. I thought he wasn't going to be looking at me, but he was. However, even with that L, I could have done like over 4k damage in this game, but even with that, we still do 3,400, and it's a pretty solid showcase of the E6. So, which of the two tanks do I prefer? Now, it is a very difficult choice for me because both of these tanks do fit my sort of gameplay style, and I really, really like both of them a lot. But I will have to go and give the slight edge to the E6, simply because I like the better pen on it, on its premium shells especially. When it comes to dealing with hull-down mediums, having that extra heat pen means you can go through tanks like the STB more easily, E50M. It's just overall the pen on the tank is so much nicer, and I just prefer heat shells over APCR in general. So I'm going to have to give it to the E6 on this one, and also it has slightly better mobility too. Overall, the tank is just slightly better in my opinion. And yeah, even with the alpha damage like trolling me there, I was still rolling higher, like I said, than if I was in the Strv K. Now, the E6 is also in the store right now for $39 Canadian. It's a bit cheaper in America. I don't know what the price is, probably like 30 bucks American, which is actually a really solid deal for this tank because it is, of course, a tier 10. Normally, this kind of vehicle would come out for like 17,000 gold, but $39 is a lot cheaper than 17,000 gold. So I do actually think it's worth it, especially because it comes with mystery boxes, which are kind of useless, but it's free crates at the end of the day. You could get lucky. And also, you do get gold boosters as well as some ×5s that unfortunately only apply to the E6, but they are still ×5s, so it is what it is. And you do get, like, obviously the legendary camo, which is also worth gold. So yeah, overall, I think the bundle is worth it, and I do recommend, if you are thinking of getting one or the other, I would say the E6 is probably a slightly better option, but that is, of course, just my opinion. The Strv K is also a great tank. So at the end of the day, you make the final decision, but I am giving you my opinion on the two vehicles. Anyways, with that out of the way, if any of you are not yet subscribed to my channel, I highly recommend you do so. It's a fantastic way to support the content I make, as well as stay up to date when I post videos almost daily. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.